This is when we get to the fun part, when you actually get to start writing your case study. It's really important as we talk through the first draft, the second draft, the different steps in actually doing the writing. It's very important to remember one key piece of information. We separate authoring from writing. If you try to write while you're authoring, the task becomes very difficult and can take a lot of time. If you separate those tasks and don't worry about wordsmithing in the early parts of the project, it's going to go a lot smoother and your final product's going to be a lot better. When you first receive that transcription of an hour-long conversation with a customer, it can be overwhelming. What I like to do before I even start writing is start to separate the content in that transcript and map it to where it needs to go, section by section. Now, there are a couple ways to do this. Sometimes I like to take highlighters and I just highlight the content as it relates to each section. So I'll choose blue for the situation and green for the results, or whatever the color combination works for you. That's an easy way to very quickly read through a transcript and decide where the content can be used. After you've done that, or instead of doing that, you can simply open it up in your word processor, copy and paste sentence by sentence where the information needs to map in the case study. Now, once you've done that, then you can start writing the first narrative. That's what you want to emphasize. Am I getting the right information from the customer? Am I presenting it in an accurate way? Then circulate that draft with the caveat that we're not wordsmithing. This is just for content only. At that point, let your sales team and your colleagues who had interaction on the sales deal, let them look at it and say, oh yes, well, here's another point we should add, or no, this isn't quite the right nuance of what was happening. This helps you clarify the business issues and the factual information for your case study. It also makes it easy to identify any missing information that you need to follow up with someone or do some research to fill in. Now, once you have that first draft, you've made the initial corrections, then you can move on to the second draft. Then you're ready for prime time, the polishing and design stage. The second draft is where you really start to polish the copy and bring it together. It's really helpful if you can take a couple of days away from the material after you complete the first draft and before you start the second draft. That gives your subconscious time to process in the background. It also helps you become more objective as you look at the material again. Sometimes this isn't possible because you have a short deadline, but whenever you can, allow a little bit of cooling off time between the two drafts. This is where we revise and polish our prose. We check our grammar, we verify spelling, we verify that we've used words correctly. You want to check to make sure you have consistent verb tense, consistent verb mood. Eliminate passive voice unless you're using it for a specific purpose, and start working in your keywords and search phrases. You also want to check your messaging map and make sure that you've hit all the key messages with emphasis that you need to in this case study. The biggest challenge is ensuring that your piece reads like a hero's journey and not some kind of advertisement. You want to tell the story in a way that allows the reader to empathize with the customer's struggle and the eventual success without being overly dramatic or overly emotional. It's a tough balance to achieve, but you can do it. Now that you have your basic structure in place, it's time to start fleshing out your case study with some eye candy. What you want to do is serve up the juiciest morsels of your story in an easy-to-find place for each of your readers. Here's some suggestions for breaking up that giant wall of text and making those morsels easy to find. Let's start with the sidebar. This typically includes the name of the company that you're doing the case study about, their location, a couple of lines to describe the business, and an executive summary of the situation, actions, and result. This could be a whole paragraph or it could be just a couple of sentences. Then you'll want to look for places throughout the article to add pull quotes. Look for quotes that tie back to your marketing material that show you can deliver what you're promising. Between paragraphs or between columns, you can emphasize these quotes by putting them in a different font or different size, or delineating them with a box or lines to separate them from the other content. You'll want to add images, stock photos, professional photos of the customer's facility, headshots of the people who are interviewed, product images, images from their website, Look around and see what makes sense within the context of your story and what you can get permission to use. This is how we add oomph. Then, when you're finished with the second draft, your internal team has blessed it, then you're ready to send it to the customer. You don't want to send them the case study too soon because watching the sausage being made is really scary for some customers. And once it goes to your customer, they're going to have some internal circulation to do as well. Typically, they're going to have to send it to their marketing or communications team. They'll probably have to send it to their legal team. It may take a little time for them to get it back to you for final revisions.